This is Sky News at 10, our top story.
I'm struggling to hear, but this is my normal life.
The migrants living and working in the shadows and those ditching their asylum claims as the government ramps up its rhetoric. Striking back after a talk with his boss, defiant Gary Lineker insists he'll be back on our screens this weekend.
We chat after.
Anything about the tweet, Gary? Do you regret sending the tweet at all?
No.
Reports several people have been killed in the German city of Hamburg as police confirm an operation is underway. HS2 rail links to Crewe and Manchester are delayed by 2 years as local businesses count the cost. I knew she was gone. A court hears of the moment 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell's mother discovered the bullet wound in her chest. And the Arctic blast delaying spring with strong winds and 40 centimetres of snow predicted for some. Plus, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. They are the disappeared. Migrants who arrived in the UK illegally, but who've intentionally abandoned their asylum claims and chosen to go underground. They're trapped between people traffickers and a government intent on pushing international law to its limits to stop people like them coming to the UK. Until now, their voices have been missing from the debate over new proposals outlined this week. Sky News has heard the fears of deportation and seen firsthand what it's really like to live and work in the shadows. Our communities correspondent Lisa Holland has tonight's first report.
Late morning and near a train station in South London, we've arranged to meet 3 men who came to the UK to seek asylum. They don't want us to know where they're staying.
So you've all gone underground?
Yes, ma'am.
All disappeared?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Living outside of society?
Yes, ma'am.
In a week which has seen the government ratchet up its strategy to stop people entering the country illegally, we can reveal threats to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda were already driving those here into hiding. Dravid is from India and flew to the UK using fake documents.
I don't want to attend the Home Office to proceed my claim.
You don't want to risk it?
No, I don't want to risk it.
So what are you afraid of? That if you report in, that they'll detain you?
They maybe detain me and they can send me to Rwanda.
It means anyone in authority, like the police, terrifies them.
I am very nervous and suffering, and I go to another way.
Ayudson and Abinthan say they're Tamils who fled from persecution and torture in Sri Lanka. They crossed the channel by small boat. After risking their lives to get here, they're also now ditching their asylum claims.
I came to 3 attempts on my boat. Second time
You tried 3 times?
Yeah, second time it pushed me water,
You capsized?
Yeah, it pushed me out water. Then I swimming inside. Third time is attempt come.
Third time lucky. But did you think that your life here would be like it is now, on the run?
Not now and not like it. No.
But going into hiding can make it difficult to access some medical care, and leaving the hotel accommodation provided by the government for asylum seekers whilst their claims are being processed. Everyone that we've spoken to says they're only really able to exist outside of the system because they're offered somewhere to live or given cash-in-hand work by people they know within their own community. But for those going underground, here's a glimpse into the future.
Tomorrow is the day to taking all cardboards.
Kanaga Sabathi is paid cash in hand by other Sri Lankans to do cleaning and maintenance work. He came to the UK nearly 20 years ago and also says he fled persecution. He's lived in this garage for 5 years since his asylum claim failed. He's very aware the Home Office is stepping up raids on undocumented migrants living illegally like him. It's a miserable and lonely existence.
So for you, this is a normal life?
This is my normal life. I don't know what is the difference because I'm struggling to hear, but this is my normal life.
Do you know a lot of people who live like you live?
Yeah, I have one or two friends. They are also live like that. Sometimes they're sleeping on the road. At least I got something. That's what I think.
It's estimated there could be around 1 million migrants living illegally in Britain, fueling the cash-in-hand economy. Another problem for a government desperately trying to stop anyone else from joining its broken asylum system. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
Well, that's the evidence that asylum seekers already here are being driven underground. Key to deterring others from arriving in small boats will be securing an agreement with France. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak meets the French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris tomorrow in an attempt to do just that. Well, let's go to Downing Street now and our chief political correspondent John Craig. And John, the Prime Minister will be keen to deepen cooperation with Emmanuel Macron. What exactly will he be offering and what could success look like?
Well, top of the Prime Minister's agenda, obviously, is tackling the small boats crisis in the Channel. He wants a deal with President Macron whereby the French will take back the migrants who are deported from the UK, a returns policy as it's known. He also wants more help from the French in patrolling those beaches in France and basically beefing up security. He's prepared to pay the French more money. The government's already handed over millions. Many Tory MPs say they're not getting value for money. But the signs are that President Macron may say, look, that is a British domestic issue. And also the question of returning people from the UK to the continent of Europe is a matter for the European Union, not just for France. So he may not get the successful deal that he hopes for. The French, of course, it's not top of their agenda. They want to talk about defence cooperation, the war in Ukraine and other international issues, science and so on, energy security and so on. This is the first of these summits for 5 years. They used to be almost annual, but of course after Brexit, relations between the UK and France have deteriorated. Boris Johnson famously said, "Donnez-moi un break" to the French. Liz Truss said the jury was out on whether President Macron was a friend or foe. But so far, Mr. Sunak's relations with the president have been much improved on previous years, and he will be hoping that at this summit he can make the entente more cordial.
John, thank you. I want to bring you some breaking news now from the German city of Hamburg, where there are reports that several people have been killed in a shooting. Let's cross that to our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, who's in Berlin for us. What more can you tell us, Siobhan?
Good evening. Yes, this is still very new information coming in. We have had some updates, though, on social media from Hamburg police. I'm going to read them to you. We understand that this shooting seems to have happened at around 9 o'clock this evening in Hamburg. That's according to DPA news agency. Now, the police are saying, according to initial findings, shots were fired in a church in a street in Dielburger in the district of Grossborstel, which is in Hamburg. Several people were seriously injured. They're saying some even fatally. They are on the scene. There's a large contingent of them there, and they say more information will follow. Now, they're also saying at the moment there is no clear information about the motive behind these shootings. This is a very active and moving investigation at the moment. There are unconfirmed reports in local media that as many as 6 people could have been killed, many more injured. But as I say, at the moment, none of that officially confirmed by the police. What we do know from the police is that they are on the scene in a large contingent responding to this report of shootings in a church in Hamburg.
OK, Siobhan, we'll be back to you for further updates should they come in. Thank you. Now, returning to the government, Match of the Day host Gary Lineker has been one of the most prominent critics of the government's migration plans. His accusation that ministers use language not dissimilar to that used by Germany in the 1930s has prompted a row over BBC impartiality. But today, despite calls for him to resign or be sacked, the former footballer insisted he would be presenting the goals this Saturday. Ashna Harinag reports.
Anything you'd like to say, Gary?
When politics and personality collide, the future of the BBC's highest-paid presenter is called into question for being vocal. Gary Lineker says he stands by his views.
Have you heard from the BBC, Gary?
I'm always talking to the BBC.
What has the Director General said? Anything to you?
Yeah.
What's he said?
He said, well, we chat often.
Anything about the tweet, Gary? Do you regret sending the tweet at all?
No.
Clearly conversations so far working in Lineker's favour, with him remaining on air this weekend. But the row is rumbling on. The Home Secretary has branded his comments offensive and that they push the boundaries of freedom of speech.
To kind of throw out those kind of flippant analogies diminishes the unspeakable tragedy that millions of people went through.
Working here in any capacity comes with guidelines. Staff are bound by due impartiality, even if they don't work in news or current affairs. The corporation has a difficult task: get rid of one of the most popular faces on the BBC, or risk making a mockery of those guidelines. One former BBC editorial director says reaching a compromise will be difficult.
I don't think it merits suspending Gary right now. However, it would have to be done, his return to Match of the Day, on the basis that a complaints process was underway and there would be a resolution to it. And that's why at the moment it's rather murky what's going on in BBC Salford and BBC London. But there will be all sorts of machinations going on about how Saturday works and, more importantly, how the future conduct of all presenters is dealt with by the BBC.
There's confidence from one of the corporation's most popular stars after this accusation in the Commons.
Labour are borrowing from the Gary Lineker playbook. They are a party of goal hangers and the occasional left-wing striker.
There was yet more defiance. "I'm just happy to have been better in the 6-yard box than you are at the dispatch box," he tweeted. With his spot on the schedule and the BBC's position unchanged, Lineker for now seems resolute. He's going nowhere. Ashna Harinag, Sky News.
Its budget has already more than doubled. It's been beset by delay after delay. And today, the Transport Secretary confirmed the high-speed 2 rail link would not be completed until beyond 2040. That's 30 years after it was first announced. Connections from Birmingham to Crewe and Manchester will now be pushed back by 2 years because of soaring inflation. Our political correspondent Liz Bates has been hearing about the likely impact on local economies.
The first trains will run in 2026.
In just over a decade's time, we'll have journeys from here in Crewe.
People are going to see these improvements soon in this decade, rather than having to wait till the likes of 2040s to see it delivered.
After over a decade of broken promises, High Speed 2 has been delayed yet again, with the government announcing that affordability pressures mean more hold-ups and cutbacks that will impact mostly on Phase 2 from Birmingham through Crewe to Manchester. For this Crewe business, finding out that the town's high-speed rail connection will be subject to a 2-year delay, taking the completion date to 2036, has come as a blow.
Clearly it's disappointing. The local economy is being built on the back of HS2 coming to Crewe. Obviously Crewe, Nantwich, the towns and villages in the surrounding area are all looking for that boost to the economy, and any delay obviously means that that's a delay for the local economy and the infrastructure.
More criticism from those who have long campaigned to improve transport links across the north.
The poor productivity issues in the north of England are directly correlated to the poor transport that made me late for this interview. Happens all the time.
In the capital, the central London hub in Euston will also take years longer than planned. It's to keep costs down on a project whose budget has already ballooned from £33 billion to over £70 billion. Its end date now beyond 2040, 30 years since it was first announced. And some Conservative MPs are calling on the government to cut their losses.
We don't need to spend this money. We could improve the railways we've got with better signalling, with improvements that gets more trains on the West Coast Main Line, for example. Let's just say, sorry, we made a mistake. Save that money.
On a point of order, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Accused of burying the news in a written statement, the Deputy Speaker agreed with Labour that a minister must come to the House to face questions.
There has to be an expectation that members will have the earliest opportunity to question ministers on this statement.
This tees up a Commons clash next week that could further derail what has long been one of the UK's most divisive transport projects.
Liz Bates,
ultimately,
Sky
I think
News,
common sense has
Westminster.
to prevail.
I knew she had gone. The evidence heard in court today from the mother of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell, who died after being shot in her home. Cheryl Corbell also described the moment she lifted her daughter's clothes to discover she'd been shot in the chest. Thomas Cashman, who's accused of the killing, appeared to wipe away tears in the dock, as our chief North of England correspondent Greg Milam reports.
Thomas Cashman was brought to court to hear, in her own words, the mother of the child he's accused of murdering describe what happened that night. The video of a police interview with Cheryl Corbell, recorded a week after the shooting last August, was played to the jury. In it, she talks about the moment Olivia Pratt-Corbell was shot and the moment she learned that her daughter had died. In the video, her arm is still bandaged from her own injuries that night. She said she realised there'd been a shooting outside and that someone was trying to get inside. I was screaming for them to go away, she said. I heard a gunshot and felt it hit my hand. She said I couldn't keep the door shut, and then she heard the baby, as she referred to Olivia, speak. She thought the 9-year-old maybe said mum. That's when I turned round and I spotted her sat at the bottom of the stairs. I leant over her and, like, held her to the left. I just huddled over. They tried to get Olivia up the stairs. I couldn't keep her awake. I realised that she must have been hit because I didn't know until then. And I lifted her top up and the bullet had got her right in the middle of the chest. She added, I knew she'd gone. I knew she'd gone. Thomas Cashman appeared to wipe away tears in the dock. The prosecution say he was the gunman that night, engaged in a ruthless pursuit of his intended target, a pursuit that ended with Olivia's tragic death in her own home. He denies all the charges. The court heard statements from neighbours of the family describing what they saw that night. One who said she saw Cheryl Corbell after the shooting and had never seen anyone in such a state of distress. Greg Milam, Sky News, Manchester.
Large swathes of northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland are under severe weather warnings this evening, with forecasters warning of heavy snow showers of up to 40 centimetres. The cold weather is expected to continue until the weekend, as Caterina Bertozzi reports.
They warned of snow, and in some parts of the UK, inches fell in hours, cloaking high hills in the Yorkshire Dales, making morning commutes dangerous.
Here in Sheffield, residents woke up to snow that continued to get heavier throughout the day. Schools across the city have been shut, and there have been warnings that treacherous conditions could continue until tomorrow.
Walking wasn't easy, driving even harder. Gritters have been out in force as the Met Office warned of atrocious travel conditions.
They used to be pretty bad in Sheffield many years ago, but now they're on the ball and they try to get the gritters out early, and they're obviously looking at the weather forecast for once.
National highways closed roads in the north of England where an amber alert has been in place. Electricity companies here also warned of power cuts. Businesses like this Sheffield cafe saw slower trade as customers stayed home.
With hospitality, it does have a huge impact. Definitely, just due to trade, you know, you won't see many people walking around, and it's harder for people to get out, especially in somewhere like Sheffield, where it's so hilly. Places are essentially cut off when it's like this.
As more snow fell, warnings spread into North Wales and Ireland. Birmingham Airport delayed some flights whilst runways were de-iced, brushed and ploughed. But amidst the disruption, for some, the weather brought moments of joy. Even a little bit of wonder.
I come from Indonesia, so it's not have a snow in Indonesia.
So is this the first time you've ever made a snowman in your whole life?
Yeah, this is my first time. Yeah, it's good.
More spring-like weather is not too far away. The worst of this cold blast is forecast to clear by Friday afternoon. Caterina Bertozzi, Sky News.
Let's return to the developing story in Hamburg in Germany, where several people have been killed and others injured in a church in the German city. Our New York correspondent Siobhan Robbins is in Berlin. Have you got any further updates for us, Siobhan?
Yes, so we're getting a little bit more information. We can show you some pictures from the scene. Now, we understand that one or more unknown perpetrators started shooting at people at a church in Hamburg, in the Ulsterdorf district of Hamburg, this evening. We know from police information that several people have been shot, some of them potentially fatally, others have been seriously injured. And there is a large contingent of police on the scene now. We have been getting some information as well from DPA news agency here in Germany, which says rescue workers carry people out of the Jehovah's Witness building, saying that the background, the motive behind this shooting is still unclear, but clearly a very active scene at the moment. Lots of special forces on the scene as they try to bring out the people who have been injured and find out why this has happened.
OK, Siobhan, thank you for that update. We'll return to that story as soon as we get further information and clarification on the numbers of those who have been fatally shot. Thank you. To Ukraine now, after the head of the world's nuclear regulator said he was astonished at international complacency after yet another power outage at Europe's biggest nuclear plant in Zaporizhia. It's not known if the damage was caused by the wave of Russian missile strikes across Ukraine. Military leaders in Kyiv say they believe 6 hypersonic missiles were used to target several towns and cities, killing more than 6 people. Our chief correspondent, Stuart Ramsey, reports from Kyiv.
Police search for fragments of the missile that hit this residential neighbourhood in Kyiv. They want to know exactly what it was. The Russians fired a whole range of weapons across the country, shattering the morning peace with devastating effect. Cars caught fire as the missile crashed into the ground. In the car park, they surveyed the damaged vehicle, seeing what they could repair. I wondered if they're getting used to all of this.
Hope for the best.
But the war goes on, right?
For sure. All the wars in the history, they're once and all they're over. So I hope it's gonna be fast and the peace comes soon.
Council workers began delivering rolls of plastic sheeting for people to repair their windows as best as possible. It's relatively mild at the moment, but the temperature here can plummet in a matter of hours.
There has been a break, but these type of incidents have been happening across Ukraine for months now. As civilian population aren't getting used to it at all. They live in constant fear that their sort of completely innocuous residential area could be the next one to get hit.
Larissa took me into her apartment. She told me she thought her balcony was going to fall off as she was shaken by the explosion. I asked her what she thought of Russia and the war.
Если слышат меня мои друзья, услышат там, которые всю жизнь я с ними прожила, прослужила, будь они прокляты все. Я переживаю не за себя, я старый человек. Я за детей переживаю, за внуков, за своих. Я хочу, чтобы это как можно скорее прекратилось. Чтобы этот Путин сдох, скотина.
This was a massive Russian attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. A power station in Kyiv burned through the morning after a direct hit. By afternoon, the fire was out, but there have been widespread power cuts caused by the attack. Crucially, and potentially catastrophically, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant was temporarily cut from the grid. That's for the 6th time. Listing this response from the nuclear watchdog.
Each time we are rolling a dice. And if we allow this to continue time after time, then one day our luck will run out.
Air raid sirens periodically sounded throughout the day. After 3 weeks of quiet, residents once again returned to the safety of the metro to await the all clear. It's part of life now, working from the underground. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Kyiv.
A gunman opened fire on a crowded street in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv this evening, injuring 3 people before he was shot and killed. Medical workers said one of the wounded was in a critical condition. The Palestinian group Hamas said the gunman was one of its members. It said the shooting was in response to the killing of 3 members of the Islamic Jihad group by Israeli security forces in a gun battle in the West Bank. The astrologer mystic Meg, whose real name was Margaret Lake, has died at the age of 80. She wrote horoscopes for The Sun and News of the World newspapers for more than 20 years. She began her career working as a sub-editor on the Sunday paper. NHS prescription charges will rise by 30 pence to £9.65 from April the 1st. The Department of Health said it had applied an inflation rate of 3.2%. Mae Muller has been revealed as the UK's entrant for this year's Eurovision Song Contest. The 25-year-old has previously supported Little Mix on tour and will perform her track, I Wrote a Song, in Liverpool in May. It's one of the biggest nights in showbiz, and this Sunday's Oscars will be the last ceremony before new standards to boost diversity are introduced. But Sky News analysis suggests they may have little effect. And the President Academy insists all the Best Picture nominees going back several years would have complied with the new guidelines. Now, one overlooked director thinks Hollywood should look to the UK's BAFTAs for an example of how to effect real change. Here's our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, a warning her report does contain flash photography.
As they roll out the red carpet for Hollywood's great and good to grace this Sunday, the Academy are keen to hammer home that after years of Oscars-so-white headlines, who ends up here is changing. As next year, its much-hyped new rules kick in, designed to improve diversity. With so many workarounds, the qualifying criteria, even a film like All Quiet on the Western Front, top-heavy with white male stars, would still have little to worry about. In fact, in an exclusive interview with Sky News, the Academy president revealed all previous Best Picture nominees would, in fact, still qualify.
We did find that, given these new guidelines, all the past nominations would have still qualified, but it was almost a way for people just to be a little bit more conscious about those things.
While Asian actors have received an historic high of 4 nominations this year, there's 0 women up for Best Director and only 2 black actors nominated, seemingly overlooked by the Academy. Phenomenal performances by both Danielle Deadwyler and Viola Davis.
There was a lot of female artists and artists of color working on our film. We want to be acknowledged for our skill, for our excellence, for our craft. These are people who've been out there for years, decades, doing what they do, and not getting noticed.
For the female director behind The Woman King, absent from this year's all-male lineup, something needs to give.
It's about a systemic issue that's been there. Again, I'm really hoping that the Oscars take a look at what BAFTA's done, because the changes have really worked, and I think that's what we need to do.
While actors just want to see the best work getting plaudits.
It shouldn't just be about no one's heritage or skin colour, but the work also speaks for itself, which definitely raises some legit and genuine questions.
Thank you for all coming out.
While the new rules might be well-intentioned, it seems there's a lot more work to be done if Hollywood is ever to make real strides forward with equality. Katie Spencer, Sky News in Hollywood.